Howdy, hi. Ignore the mess. I'm in the middle of crafting. I'm in the middle of putting my clothes away. It's the holiday. I just got stuff, so we're gonna ignore all of that. Okay. As I say that, and then I spill all the cards. Okay. I hope that you are doing well. Giving yourself and those that you love some care. Giving yourself a little extra attention, giving yourself time to process this year. What it's been. I've been struggling, to be honest, the past couple weeks even. Leading up to this period of time, it's just felt like kind of confusing, kind of randomly heavy. I feel like burdened, but I'm working to not be overwhelmed. But then at the same time, I just feel like there's so much. I just feel very uncertain. I feel just heavy, confused, for sure. Been feeling randomly forgetful. I don't know if that's an energy that's going on for everybody or specifically myself, but whatever it is that you're feeling, I know the holidays are always a time for everybody, right? So, it just, not even there's nothing even necessarily going on. It just feels like I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to stay high vibe. I'm trying to trust the universe with whatever it's got coming for me. But yeah, I feel like I'm in this weird, definite state of uncertainty. Maybe you can relate. If you can, let's just keep holding out, doing our very best. Trust in the universe to guide us in the right directions, but also making sure that we're receiving that, right? Nothing happens by chance. Everything happens through consequence of action. So it's about the energy and stuff that you're putting into things. I'm doing my best. I really just needed a bit of a rest energetically. And I've been allowed that, but I've also been reminded or cautioned rather, more or less, to not get too comfortable in the space, because this isn't the final space that I want to be in. So I've been making the most of that. I love how as soon as I start to want to do a reading, I suddenly have to pee. Okay, hold on. This is what we've got. Okay. I've got 3 cards that came in face down and 3 cards that came face up. I gotta pee. I'm sorry, I'll be right back. Okay. So in part, maybe that energy that I've been feeling is because I just started my cycle. And I've been drinking wine. Quit judging me. Yeah, well, it's the holidays. So wine is what I've been bringing to every gathering since Thanksgiving. And there's been a whole bunch going on. And so I've just had wine around all the time. And I've been drinking it. But yeah, I just started my cycle. So maybe that's in part where all of these, I don't know, just these feelings are coming from. There's just been a lot. There was something I was just thinking about. That too, I've been weirdly forgetful. I don't know. I'm going through yet another transition, as always. Love being a Scorpio. I am in constant transition. it does get a little exhausting. I'll give it that. Not getting any younger, but I'm maintaining okay, so I guess it's fine. It has to be fine. It's all that there is. It doesn't matter if it's fine or not. I have to make it fine because it's what's happening. But yeah, I feel, I've been feeling like, and I'm trying not to let anything interfere with that, but the universe already told me that good things are coming to those who wait. And so I've been waiting, and I've been trying my best to not do stupid shit in the meantime. I'm not great at that, to be honest. Not the best. I definitely have still made mistakes. But I do my best. I do my best. That's the best I got. I just know this next year is going to be something so different. So different than what's ever been. Oh, maybe these weird feelings are because the fucking Vatican is trying to open 5 doors, spiritual doors that have not been opened ever. They're trying to do some new ritual. I'm really sensitive to weird energy like that. Like, even when it happens, like, across the world. My brother and I have always been like that. I've met other people that are like that, but my brother and I remember when the tsunami in Sri Lanka, I believe it was, that happened in Indonesia, that one in, like, 2008 or whenever that was, that, like, it was absolutely catastrophic. Both my brother and I felt this, like, really heavy bout of depression just prior to it happening. And then the day that it happened, like, it was like we were both feeling it. We were feeling it kind of leading up to that. And then the day that it happened, prior to us hearing anything in the news, both of us had expressed to one another that we were just really feeling it. And we haven't talked about that morning. I remember being upstairs in the house and talking about these feelings, and he was like, well, maybe there's something happening in the world and we're just, like, feeling it. Like, maybe we're, everything is like an energy and a magnetism. Maybe we just happen to be, like, a stronger type of magnet, and we're just affected by these energies, and are feeling something that we don't even know yet. And I was like, that's a great point, because that's kind of what it feels like. This feels deep. It feels like it's not just something that's happening on the surface on here on Earth, but it's something that's happening very deep within the planet, and also very deep within our, like, universe. It's not just something local. It's something, real. It's feeling like there's something from far away coming very close and changing things. It feels like nemesis is what they call that, right? Like, I wish I having to use words to express so many, like, if you could just look into my brain right now and see all of the different synapses that are happening, that would be beneficial, because it's way too much for me to explain, but holy shit. This is a lot. Sorry. I'm, like, deep in my head right now. There are aspects of each and every one of us that are to be carried on into this next life. And those are the things that are being cultivated right now. Because of magnetism, yes. chemistry in general, history, and how it's affected our chemistry, our choices in our lives, and how it's affected our DNA. Anything that is truly of us, that is left, that can be used in the future, there's different dimensions. We're being split. We're being dissected to be used in all these different dimensions. And it's an energy frequency. There's aspects of us that are up here. There's aspects of us that are down here. They're all being divvied out on each dimension magnetically. And because of the state of the third dimension right now, it still feels like we don't see it necessarily happening. It's something that feels like it'll be happening in the future. We're still seeing things being the same way that they've technically been. That's an illusion. It's already happened. It's already happening. Oh man, it's going to be the blink of an eye and we're going to be completely just... divided, but into our right spaces. Like so much of the division that we've been feeling, so much of the conflict that we've been feeling, so much of the frustration, the depression, the everything that we've been feeling has been because of this perceived conflict that it only exists because the third dimension exists still as it does right now. But it doesn't actually. That's, again, only for a very specific period in time right now. Yeah, and it's not going to last. Hold on, I need to... I'm just going to use... this. Did that make sense, what I just said? I'm like in multiple dimensions right now. Okay. Wow. I really wish that you guys could see in my head right now. I'm seeing these planes of existence like overlap on top of each other, like waves on an ocean shore. But there's this other thing that's happening too, which is like boats or rafts being sent out to sea, and it's like as the waves come in, they come and they grab these rafts. They pull these rafts out with them, and there's like these things floating on top, and it's like that change from the raft being on the sand to being on the water, and how the water like slides under it and then takes it. We really are at a point right now where like no more work can be done. There's still these final little things. You know, it's so strange. I've generally been sent out prior in order to do all these little detailed workings, in order for things to fall into alignment. But then it's like part of my job is also to just stay just a little bit afterwards in order to make sure all those loose ends are tied up. I saw a meme the other day that was, I don't understand, like, particle physics. It's not that I don't understand it. I understand it. I don't know it well. But it was a joke on particle physics, and there was a certain mass, whatever that mass was, that was kind of in between these particles, these atoms being able to move from one's position to another. And there was one atom that was different than the others. You know, they're different. They're not, had to have been atoms. But in order to it wasn't about moving the blockage. It was about creating a space within the blockage that the other atoms could move through. But the way that worked was essentially by that mass of atoms sacrificing a very specific atom in order to open that gate kind of deal. And it was like this one Adam realized that it's like, oh, I'm the key. So then it put itself in that position, and then the gate opened up, and then all the ones could go through, and they're like, okay, but come on, like, you can still get through. And it was like, no, you guys all have to go. You have to go. I've done this for you. I have to stay back. Like I say, like, it's like that Moses like brought all of the Israelites to the promised land, but he had to stay back and watch from the mountain. And it was almost like because he was holding open the gate. There's so many other things that happened. I believe it was with Joshua and Caleb leading into the promised land. But yeah, there's just like these little ties. So like I'm watching these waves and I'm like seeing, wow, that's so crazy. It's like fireworks. It's so wild. Like, how I can see it so clearly. It's like I feel like I'm tripping right now. I only had a tiny bit of wine. Like, I'm mostly sober. This is wild. I don't even know where this is all coming from. Super deep. Okay. All right. Let me just go into this reading. We have 3 cards that are face down and 3 cards that are face up. There are some things that have already been revealed, and all of this is preset. This isn't new information. This is all things that, upon their revealing, will be like, oh, like, right, we actually kind of knew that. We were told that. We knew that. Whether or not you believed it, it'll all be revealed. You'll believe all of it. You won't be able to deny it. Nobody will be able to deny any of it anymore. And not even just deny, like reject. Like, there's so many things that we have had in this past life that we, could be like, oh, I'm not denying it. It's real, but like, I'm going to do something different. We're not. That's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about having no excuse. Maybe that's where this desire to like be giving into these old things has come from. Because it's like that last little bit, like, well, as long as I have an excuse, I'm going to make it. That's a sin of mine for sure. I work on it in so many different ways, but like the ways that other people can look at it and be like, well, yeah, but I understand, are ways that I tend to get lazy about it. And you can't really hide from these things anymore. I'm hearing like, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. But the importance of Not the importance, it's not important, but to be able to consume. Because it's only in this space and time that we have that. And it is quickly being done away with. Seeing 888. And the way I'm seeing it is that there's two 8s together, and then there's like the infinity symbol 8, like an 8 on its side in between them, connecting them all together. They're all interwoven. It's almost like I should draw it. So it's hard to see because of how much of a hard time my phone has focusing when something is close. You can kind of see here how like this part comes over, this part comes under. They're all interwoven. Which is like more than a chain link, which would almost essentially just be the two 8s together, interwoven with each other. Putting that third one is creating like 1, an extra length, 2, an extra connection of stability. It's moving into another dimension. It creates another dimension of stability. So the length comes by consequence of that. Our concept of eternity is in comparison to what is truly so finite and momentary in this existence. But even in the next existence, when we're in eternity, it in of itself is really just part of its own timeline. It's just we haven't had a way to measure that properly yet. I think this is why, like, dead friends have come back and communicated with me. You know, to show me that, like, it's not as grandiose as it seems, the other world, the other side. That it's actually just a part of a greater whole. It's walking through one door and then walking through another. We're talking about opening 5 portals. we're trying to get into a space that in order to get into this third dimension and this tangibility that we've had for the time that we've had it, we sacrificed a couple higher dimensions. I was told recently that it was the 8th and the 12th. That seemed to resonate with me, but I didn't fully understand why. I can see with the 5 portals being opened how we could be trying to move into those. Right, and 8 plus 4. Okay. I'm seeing even in these cards, in the back of these cards, this link, how these all link into each other. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that, only we're talking about moving from where it is right now, where these 2 points meet each other, to moving into a period where these 2 points are themselves then interconnected within that space. It's something far more sustainable, far more secure, far more intricate and complex. And with those intricacies and complexities come a greater need for understanding, and a greater level of capacity for miscalculation. It still is within a weird dichotomy, a weird dualistic. The fact we aren't moving out of that yet is wild. Okay, I know everything that's been going on for the last 15 minutes has been wild and insane and not really made much sense to... It's made sense to who it needs to, but let's do these cards. What I'm getting is to reveal these cards that are face down and read those, and then have the cards that are already face up clarify them. And the reason that's the case is because the way that the 3rd and 4th and 5th dimensions work, the 3rd dimension is what is tangible, what we're on the surface receiving and actively experiencing. The 5th dimension is in of itself equally as tangible, but requires this transitional dimension of the 4th dimension in order to manifest. It's a higher dimension. It's a more spiritual dimension. But in the way that it's not just non-existent, it's something truly existent, and it's something that essentially renders the 3rd dimension, I don't want to say non-existent, because it was necessary for the step process. It is a tool, but it renders it insignificant in that way, and not insignificant, insignificant in the way that what is significant to us is based on a very specific standard of measurement. When that standard of measurement is made insignificant, it becomes almost part of an illusionary history. It becomes something of old. We found something new. It's kind of like it's kind of like, before we had the, what's it called? Geocentric map of the universe, right? And then as soon as we fully embraced the heliocentric concepts, our sciences, skyrocketed. Truly, things really took a different course. And it's kind of like That's so weird. It's almost like moving back into that, but actually in a different way. And now we're seeing it in a different way now. To the point that like everything that's happened prior is rendered useless outside of the historic step process. But ultimately, like all of these new things are going to be substantial on their own. They're not going to need these past concepts anymore. That's really good. What we're seeing is what I've been talking about the alchemy. You know, we're not having to turn shit into gold any longer. It's something beyond that. Beyond having to have this tangible something in order to create this tangible nothing in order to create a tangible something. It's far beyond that. The alchemization process still exists. That's the fourth dimension. But it's almost like a bridge that you take. It's like those moving elevator floor things that they have at the airport where they like make you move really fast in the one direction, right? But like they're not made for you to go the opposite direction. One, just because that's where everything's moving. That's how the flow of traffic is. But like they send you quickly this way. If you were to turn around and try to go backwards, you would end up slowing yourself down. You'd have to work against the force of the floor, right? So it's a bridge kind of like that. Where like it's not technically made to just be crossed back and forth. It's supposed to be able to move us further into the future. And really, there's only some of us that have been made for going back. And that's just to tie up loose ends. You know, everybody moves forward and then, like, we have to go back. We go forward to make sure that we can usher everybody in, but then we go back just to make sure that everything's all cleared up. Because, like, as soon as everybody that is to move forward is moved forward, what's in the past is going to be completely done away with. And so we kind of, the few of us that were made for that, go back and just make sure that there's nothing left over of value before we, you know, it's like the final clean in your apartment before you move out, right? Just to make sure that I didn't leave anything important. Every once in a while you do. You just don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? But then that's it. And then all that's done away with. De-digitalized. Deleted. Hard delete. You know, so our process up until now has been to kind of move people in that direction. And there's still those that it's like, hey, your gate's calling. Your gate's calling. Get up and come on. This is the last time. Everything else here is closing. You got to get on. But anything that chooses to stay, there comes a point too, or like even after we go back to make sure that everything's set and secure, we can be like, man, there's multiple suitcases back there that are filled with good things. And it's like, yeah, well, nobody claimed them, so you got to leave them. You don't want to be that. But that's still a matter of choice. And, you know, I've left plenty of things behind that still held value. That always will. That's part of what we carry on. None of it's ever truly, fully hard deleted for the fact that it existed at all, right? So there's still those memories of it somewhere. So, as I read these, what I'm going to be reading is the transition and what's in the future. The transition we're currently in and what's about to be in the future. And the cards that are already face up that I used to clarify are going to be referring to the current and the past, what has led up into these things, and what will eventually be done away with. It's the cards that I'm turning will essentially render the cards that clarify it as like invaluable or no longer of use. But the point that they're out there is to recognize them so that you can embrace the transition as we put those things to rest. It's kind of like a funeral, right? The person's already dead. It's already dead. It's already gone. But it's like being able to view them one last time in order to process and start the grieving process. Okay, so let me turn these. Okay, so now it looks like this. Okay. The first card that we have is the Ten of Swords in the upright. Okay, I'm just going to read them right next to each other because then we have the Nine of Swords in the upright, which look very similar, followed by the Five of Wands. All in the upright. So interestingly enough, what I'm seeing with this first one, you know, is that we have the sun, we have this explosion, the dark star explosion, and it actually simplifies into something. It goes from the Ten of Swords to the Nine of Swords. It actually begins to simplify into something far more stable. And then moves into, back into a duality. But it's the Five of Wands, so this is the, you know, something more spiritual, something more tangible. In this read, than the swords. The swords themselves are truths, are understandings, are the facts as we've known them and been able to apply them, and it's moving into something greater than that. It's so hard to explain because in the third dimension, these are fifth dimensional concepts. So like in the third dimension, these things like seem to be outside of tangibility. But once we move into the fifth dimension, the third dimension becomes what's outside of tangibility. The fifth dimension, all of these spiritual aspects and these grander capacities are what is real and what is valid. Two become one. One becomes many. What is simple is made complex in order to be simplified, in order to be properly defined, right? Redefined. But what is chaotic is made durable in order to establish something far more definitive. These actually integrate into one another as well. You know, it's like Andromeda and the Milky Way galaxy coming together in that sense. Two completely opposing energies becoming one, and it creating the sustainability that moves into, you know, what in this dimension may look to be terrifying, intimidating, brutal even. But it's all in a far greater alignment. The only reason it feels that way is because the weapons that we've been using thus far have been truly lesser than. We're being elevated into a point of being able to receive something so much greater. So much greater. These cards are being clarified. The Ten of Swords being clarified by the King of Pentacles in the reverse. Prince of the Chariot of the Earth. The Ten of Swords is the Lord of Ruin in the upright, and it's being clarified by Prince of the Chariot of Earth in the reverse. The kings, the princes, the barons, the rulers that we have, the authorities that we have on earth right now are being done away with, are being completely inverted, are being completely turned on their heads, are being obliterated, it's the Lord of Ruin. They're being done away with, destroyed. Not just done away with either, destroyed. There isn't going to be the same desires kept. Like, it'd be one thing if you create total anarchy and you take down an unjust tyrannical system, but you don't change the hearts of men, that tyranny will rise again, and likely even stronger the next time, in order to ensure that can't happen, right? That anarchy can't happen, that the uprising can't happen. That's been prophesied for what we're dealing with now. There needs to be this uprising of a tyranny before there can be the uprising of the actual Lord of Ruin, which will render all of these things obsolete. If we want a truly sustainable future, we can't have the propensity for tyranny. And until we deal with the actual hearts of the individual and minds of men, that's just what it will continue leading to. And like I said, like the same thing, like what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But truly, what doesn't kill you mutates and tries harder, right? That's how it's been. It's not necessarily that that's changing even, which is what's so interesting. However, we are changing it around to using those things to our benefit. We've turned that around to using it to our benefit. And eventually, when these things are fully done away with, there will be no need for that. There'll be something else in its place. But stubbornness, pride, arrogance, cruelty, lasciviousness, I'm hearing. I don't even know if I fully know what that word means. But like greed, deceitfulness, unfairness, those are going to be done away with. Moral integrity comes into alignment with purpose, with self, with individual purpose, and it is embraced. And what that creates is a flexibility of the individual that creates a far more sustainable collective. The flexibility. So we're talking about these two things. This talks about the two things coming together to create the one, and the one being far more flexible. That is being clarified by the Princess of Pentacles in the upright. It's crazy because I actually received both of those cards in the last read as well with this deck. The Princess of Pentacles, we have water. Princess of the Echoing Hills, clarifying the Lord of Despair and Cruelty. Yeah, the echo is of despair and cruelty, and that's what allows this flexibility, because it's like a self-reflection. Like how I brought this up, like this is like the woman with the mirror. She's standing naked and vulnerable, but what she's showing is people's expression, is people's response to that, which is truly the vulnerability. She's just being herself. She's just being naked. There's nothing she's doing. She actually took everything away. But how people are responding to that vulnerability shows their inner person and the things that they still have, that they're still putting on in order to feel some type of way. So it's showing to each person their own nudity, their own vulnerability. And in that reflection, we are coming to a sustainable balance within the individual out into the collective, because the despair and cruelty. Despair is to those who are. Despair is what is claimed by those who are receiving cruelty. Cruelty is what is accepted by those seeking to leave others in despair, or seeking to use despair as a tool. The truth of the matter is that as these things kind of come around and turn around, all of those who have been given to cruelty will find themselves in despair, and all of those who have been in despair will find themselves completely alleviated from cruelty. That is the true justice. True justice doesn't look like one thing perfectly reflecting the other thing. It looks like things being exactly what they are. And so that's the difference. In this third dimension, we've often seen this sense that equality is the same, is sameness, when that is not at all true. Those who have been given to cruelty becoming in despair themselves is just. But those that have been in despair becoming cruel is not just. So there isn't this perfectly equatable equation. It ends up having to take on multiple different factors. This is the difference between regular algebra or regular like arithmetic and algebra, right? We're not just using numbers now, we're adding fucking letters into it, right? That's where true justice is. And as we move into this far more complex system, it's funny because it's being ruled by Leo, which is not surprising to my fucking ass. Saturn in Leo. And there's a balance. As above, so below. The Lord of Strife. What has really in this life, like, and that's why it's become so seemingly cruel, is because everyone in their desire to not people are given to a natural anxiety. Human beings are and have been for centuries. And that anxiety has come from the complexity of life and the incapacity to be able to properly render that complexity into something simply adherable to, something like we haven't been able to render it tangibly. We haven't been able to render it into something workable, which has left us with this what do they call that? When you have stuff left over, an expenditure, a margin sort of anxiety. And we're constantly receiving that and not really knowing what to do with that. And there really hasn't been anything to do with that. We came up with religion, and we came up with all these different sciences. And it's to explain this margin of anxiety. And it's funny because, like, one of my favorites is in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He's like, but what about this existential dread? And he's like, oh, that happens to everybody in this universe. That's just part of this universe. And that's because of the math of it. There really is this margin for anxiety that is being done away with, as that takes on, that's where it gets so deep and wild. It takes on, there is now an integer for that. It becomes measurable. We become grand enough to be able to measure it. And it's, I mean, if you look at this card, it's, like I said, in the third dimension, it can be terrifying. There's fire, there's crocodiles, there's these crazy ass fucking lions. I wish you could see their faces properly in here. There's snakes, there's all of this, you know. Even the symbol itself is the symbol of chaos. And so it's what is always, it's all of the fears, all of the darkness, all of the concerns, all of the anxieties, all of this existential dread becomes something quite tangible. And at first that seems terrifying, but truly it isn't. As we transition further into this, if there becomes a balance in these things, that's part of it. That becomes the new norm. That becomes the new balance, right? We're not looking for heaven. We're embracing all that is. This is heaven with every part of it. The lion, it sits with the lamb. That is peace. You know, we don't have these concepts of gold being so much better than all these other things because of its rarity and because of it having to be properly purified. Gold is the dirt of earth at this point. It is the ground that we walk on. The streets are paved with it. Everything is so much more advanced than that. And that is being clarified by the Princess of Wands in the upright, the Princess of the Shining Flame. And really it's just, yeah, it's talking about this, you know, the shining flame. It's like a torch in the darkness. There's no longer this conflict of dark and light. You know, it's still embedded within us, even though we live in a modern society of trepidation in regards to nightfall. That's why so many different, like, myths and logics, fallacies of logic exist in our modern world, is because for the longest time, during our most developmental periods as human beings, nightfall meant danger innately. We couldn't see at night. We had to create a fire. That's making us more vulnerable because now other things can see us as well. We can't see, so, you know, we're at a disadvantage. We started creating in our societies, you know, groups of people that would stay awake at night, groups of people that would stay awake during the day. And that was how we protected ourselves. You know, there's just this whole life that took on at night. In the near future, that's not the case any longer, as it has been for so long. And that's what's wild about this too, because like so much of what we've been experiencing in this modern society isn't truly in alignment with all of these things, but like it's like the after effects of what was, and now we're moving into what will be. And that in of itself has its own process. But yeah, there's not going to be these discrepancies between, well, this is good and this is bad and this is right and this is wrong. That division is completely removed, which is something unfathomable in the third dimension. It is only when you can determine those things by the resources that we have here in the third dimension, and then consider the immeasurability of things, that you even begin to understand what that looks like. And I can grasp it, honestly. But that's also because I've been trained that way in order to be able to do the work that I'm called to do, which is to go before and then to stay after. This isn't even for me. This is for you, you know. I mean, it's for me. What is for me is for me. But like ultimately, this is for those that come after me. To be able to do their work, which is something greater. You know, we're moving into, like I said, like we're moving, this is the world that I've known, you know, and that I am being called back to at the end. It's so strange to me. I've known this forever, so I don't question it. It just, no, but it's good. I mean, yeah, this is, I'll see it. I'll still get to see it. You know, like Moses, when he was on that mountain, like he's looking into the promised land. He can see everything. He can see it all. He has a bird's eye view. Doesn't mean he gets to be a part of it. But he wasn't called to be a part of it. He was called to do the work to lead all of God's chosen there. You know, he was chosen by God, but for that purpose. And honestly, it's crazy because even most of those actually chosen by God to see the promised land, like they didn't even see themselves as that, being chosen by God. They didn't understand any of it. They were questioning and complaining the entire time. It's just the way it works. That's fine. This is really deep. This is really, really deep. I've been on it for the last couple days. I noticed that this was happening when my dreams started getting just very, very deep, very different. And I've been building a new world in my dreams. And as soon as I realized that was happening, I realized that we're moving in through this period of transition and that I don't necessarily know what's on the other side, and I'm not called to. I'm called to continue doing my work. And as strange as it may be, I can't explain myself to others, but I always feel like I have to give some advice. The advice that I have right now is to, like, rebuild your nest. Get out the old fluff, you know, take out the old twigs, get rid of the stuff that's contained moisture that could lead to mold. Like, clean all that stuff out and build in what you have, what the new stuff is. And even if literally everything that you have to take out when you're going through this process and you take everything out and it seems like everything is covered in mold, covered in dust, way too old, not substantial, not sustainable, and all that you have left to work with for your nest is like a couple twigs and a rock, you know, that's okay. That's okay. That is better. That is better right now than having all of these things that don't actually suit you. Because you're not going to need any of it truly in the end. It's about the energy transference, and it's about just doing that work. It's not even, you know, it's kind of like we're being asked by the judges to create something like a cake, right? To create this cake out of these supplies. Don't use the bad supplies, get rid of whatever old supplies, whatever. Make the best that you can with what you have. But like, you're being judged not on the actual cake itself, but on your capacity to be able to work with what you have. And like, there's some people that literally only have one like cup of flour. They don't even got water. They don't have anything. And so they're like, okay, I have this one cup of flour. So they clean the table and they clean the cup and they make sure that the flour is super, super level inside of it. And then they just have essentially exactly what they were given. Maybe tied it up a bit. Maybe they don't have anything and they just have to stand there awkwardly. But they get to go through in comparison to those who were given everything and then made this beautiful, simple pie thing, right? But like, they're standing there arrogantly and they're like, oh, well, I was able to make this and that person only has a cup of flour. The person with the cup of flour is going through before that person does. It's not about the thing that you have that you're holding on to, that you've done the thing with. It's the energy transference as to what you've done with what you've been given. So please don't fall victim to, I have to have more. I need to be in a different position right now. It's very difficult because that's where I'm at right now as well. And, you know, like I had this whole space that was supposed to, what I thought was going to be putting myself into like such a higher level And I'm finding myself still at the bare minimum, and that's what's being required of me right now. And I'm being told to just embrace that as humbly as possible and with as much gratitude as possible. And so that's what I'm doing. And if you're in that same boat with me, you're not alone. Okay? If you have been given much, I pray for you because to whom much is given, much is expected, right? Make the absolute most. Like I said, just get rid of all the things that aren't truly serving you. And there's so much, and it's hard, and like that's the worst thing about acquiring so much. You can have all of these sentimental things where it's like, yeah, but I got this from this person, or this makes me remember this thing, or this makes me feel a certain type of way. But if it's not what is building into the future, it's not good for you. And if you don't know what the future holds, and you don't know yourself enough to be able to like just go in faith and confidence into that future, like I said, like you're already dead, you know, you're already dead. Like those things, like they already served their purpose. Now we're just going back and looking and being like, it's like, I used to cheat. I used to cheat in school, a lot, in a lot of different ways, to be honest. But one of the ways I would do that was by, when we would grade our own papers, I would cheat for those by writing in the answers as we were filling them out. I wouldn't let anybody see. I'd act like I wasn't doing it. And then I'd put in there, and I would like specifically ones answers that I didn't know if they were going to be right or not. I would write them in a certain way. If I knew that we were going to grade the papers ourselves, you know, as a class, like I would write them in a certain way so that as we went through it, like nobody would necessarily see, and it wouldn't look like I was correcting anything. It'd look like that was the initial answer to begin with. That was cheap. That's cheating. And I'm telling you right now that might have worked when I was in second grade. It ain't going to hold up now. There's no cheating in this game. It's all out on the table. Every tiny aspect of who we are is being accounted for because we're talking about energy. We're talking about the truth of who we really are. There's no hiding it. To some people, yes, but not ultimately to the greatest judges, which are the ones that are going to let us move forward. So wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, being patient, being grateful, being humble. Those are going to be the key energy transferences that are being looked for. And if you haven't been cultivating those things, you're going to be having a hard time. If you have to fall flat on your face, crying in tears, blubbering like a little baby, weeping for the rest of the week, like, that's okay. It's better that way. It's better that way than to keep holding on to these things that don't ultimately serve you. You have to let them out. You have to let them out. You have to be willing to work with them. It is better. It's better. Like as a hospice care nurse, like I worked with people that were absolutely in fear, but willing to process that. That's better than turning into an asshole and being like, well, I'm not really afraid. I'm not afraid of anything. Fuck everybody. I don't need anybody around me. And then being terrified when you're passing. You know what I mean? Like there's just, it's better to be genuine. It's better to be real. It's better to be humble. It's better to be open. It's better to be honest. It's better to be willing to receive and to be grateful than to become stubborn. Yeah, we're up for some weird times. Let me tell you what. But I don't know who all is going to resonate with this, because I know this was out there. But if it did resonate with you, bless you. And know that I'm praying for you in my heart of hearts. As any time that I think about these things, I am praying for you. I'm bonding with you. I'm connecting with you. I'm sharing myself with you as much as you were sharing yourself with the universe. You're not alone. I'm right there with you. Just do your best. Just do your best right now with what you have. And I'll see you on the other side.